Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Cargo, and I made this Brink video here to announce officially that I will probably not be making any more Brink videos. And this shouldn't come as much of a surprise to most of you because I haven't hardly put out any Brink videos in the last, 3 or 4 months, except for a few update videos here and there. But my decision essentially was just brought about by the fact I was playing it the other night, and I was just thinking about it, and there's not much that can be done with Brink. The clan system dropped, and I had kind of high hopes for people coming back and playing some clan battles, or just some increased general community involvement. But it never ended up happening, which was a disappointment for me. And as a result of that, as well as me just playing other games and trying to do some game battles on Battlefield 3 and Modern Warfare 3, I just won't be playing Brink all that much anymore, except for now and again. I thought this would be a good time to go over Brink and what it was and what it wasn't, and the expectations people had, and was it able to deliver on those expectations, and what we might expect in the future, because to a lot of people this was one of the games they are looking forward to most last year. So a lot kind of rode on this game, and it was especially important for many reasons, including that it was one of Bethesda's first-person shooter games, and it had a bunch of unique additions to the game that most games or FPSs in the market hadn't done before. Now, we all heard of Brink first because we saw the cool trailers and we saw people doing parkour and jumping over crates and bouncing up and down walls, and that, I think, is the hook that grabbed our attention for the gameplay. Because FPSs come out all the time, but it's not every day that you get to hop around walls while you're shooting a gun in a multiplayer setting. So I think that was one of the biggest draws to Brink. But unfortunately, I think that is one of the places that let down Brink the most. Now, it wasn't because the system is flawed in any way, but it's just because people had such high expectations of the movement system that when Brink actually came out, it was a huge disappointment. And this is Bethesda's fault for essentially misguiding the consumers. Because most consumers thought that they'd be able to do ridiculous things, like they'd be able to run up a wall and flip over backwards and shoot somebody while they're flipping over. And while that might say outrageous, that's kind of the image that Bethesda promoted to its consumers. Now, when you look back at the trailer, there isn't necessarily anything in the trailer or trailers that would suggest that that would be possible. But that's what people expected. And so, even though Bethesda may not have intentionally been trying to hype it up that much, or to the ridiculous extreme it was hyped up, it did. And they needed to pay attention to the fact that that's what people thought they were expecting. And so, when the game came out, people saw the game, they couldn't do all the movements that they wanted to do, and they essentially called the game a dud. So I think that started Brink off on a wrong foot, which was unfortunate because I don't think there's anything wrong with the movement system. And in fact, it might provide a good kind of system for many future FPSs, because the sliding along the ground in basic and jumping over rails and stuff with relative ease is something that I think should be in every FPS. So it was kind of revolutionary in that aspect, and I think many games can learn from this in the future. Brink had many issues, though. And while I love Brink, I have to say that on launch there were way too many problems, and it definitely was not a finished game. There were significant lag issues, especially on the 360, but both on PC as well as the PS3. The texture qualities would drop in and out, which was, in my opinion, completely unacceptable given the size of the maps. Because when I'm running through a small map like this, I expect all the texture quality to be there. And, well, the textures to be there, and the quality to be there as well. So it really disappointed me, and it still kind of disappoints me when I'm running around and the textures are loading in on the screen. Now, I understand that it was an effort to reduce the lag, but I feel like this is a problem that should have been worked out, because if you want to make a good-looking game, and you want to make it a good multiplayer experience, you need to be able to work in both of those effectively. Half-assing the good-looking game part so you can get a half-assed connection is just terrible, because the consumers get neither of what they might have been looking for. They don't get a great connection when they're playing their games, and they also don't get the good texture quality and graphics that they wanted as well. Another problem that Brink had at launch was promising a clan system. Now, again, to be fair to Bethesda, they never necessarily promised that the clan system would be effective at launch, or would be usable at launch. But let's be honest, people want to play with their friends, people want to play clan battles just for fun or for competition. And when you say that to your fans and to the people who want to buy your game, and then the clan system doesn't even come out for 6 months, that's just terrible business. And I have no idea what took Bethesda so long. And this is what disgusts me about Brink as a whole. It's that it had lots of good elements, but they kept coming in later than they were expected. It was an unfinished product at launch, and it didn't come with many of the features that players were expecting within the first month of gameplay. So those were the major killers for Brink. That's why it didn't sell well, and that's why, in my opinion, it won't be a very memorable game to most gamers, as they remember what games were the most fun when they played in the past. And this is unfortunate because Brink did a lot of things well. Its gameplay was pretty fun, but something that was unique and very enjoyable about the Brink gunplay was the sounds. Now, you can hear the pistol that I have right now makes a really solid just bang every time it shoots, and all the guns have distinct and very unique and very solid sounds that go with them when you shoot. And it sounds relevant, it sounds authentic, and it makes the gun battles that much more fun. And it's something that's overlooked in games such as Call of Duty, where you know the guns don't sound like that and they sound much more impressive, but for some reason they didn't take the time to record actual gun sounds. Another element of Brink that I enjoyed very much was the character and weapons customization. Not many games before have had the level of customization that Brink had in its weapons. Because in Brink, as you know, you can customize your weapons, but each attachment does something unique. So there is no best loadout, and there is no best setup. There's different setups for each weapon that tailor to many different types of gunplay. And also, the character customization was just really cool. Now, the character customization wasn't quite as good as the weapons customization, but I still had a whole lot of fun creating new characters. Now, I hope that Bethesda tries their hand at another FPS in the future, because I think that it was either a developer or a publisher's fault, or maybe a combination of the two, that Brink had so many problems on release. But I'd like them to try again, because I see a lot of potential in Brink still, and I still enjoy Brink as a game, despite all the issues that I've brought up. So I hope that they'll try and make another FPS, because I think it'll be good. Brink had potential, it just was not executed well. Now, this was kind of a cool match, because I think one of my first commentaries was on defending Reactor and Brink, and I happened to be doing it again, and I thought this would be a good commentary to kind of finish up my Brink series. But anyways, thanks for watching, keep calm, and super champion.